Welcome to Gumball Love. I'm Melissa Ledger, professional relationship coach, creator of Gumball Love and the Back to You Academy. If you're ready to stop the cycle of toxic men, get through the breakup once and for all, and finally get back to you, you are in the right place. This journey is about healing your heart, and you are encouraged to take the pace that is just right for you. In the process, you will build a foundation of confidence and strength that will make you unshakable, I promise. So get ready to level up your mindset and your lifestyle as you awaken the seeds of greatness just waiting to burst into full bloom. Let's do this. Welcome back to another episode of Gumball Love. I'm your host, Melissa Ledger. So today I'm going to talk to you about something I think it's going to be really helpful for you, and you're going to have such a different perspective about the way you're interpreting online dating and just how afraid a lot of these guys are. I remember so many times going on dates where, you know how it starts with a, "Hey, how are you?" And so I'm going to just take you down the road. Like I used to respond to those. I'd be like, "Good, how are you?" And then I would wait and he'd be like, "Just watching the game and getting ready to blah, blah, blah for the weekend. What are you up to this weekend?" And so then I'd end up in this conversation like so many of us do. We're texting this guy we don't know, but he's got cute pictures and let's see where this goes. But then it goes and it goes and it goes. And then pretty soon we're like into some pretty in-depth conversation via text. And sometimes it wouldn't necessarily even move to a phone call. Finally, like a week or two goes by and you're going, okay, is this ever going to turn into a date? And then you say something, or I used to say something like, "Okay, are we going to meet in person? Like, did you ever want to get together?" Yeah. I got to check my schedule because then there's like a schedule thing, or they talk about it happening at some point, but they're putting a date out there that's not exactly solid because all of a sudden they became some kind of a high-powered CEO overnight and that they can't even, really work in a free few hours anywhere. It's like, and then it starts to feel like, okay, so you're texting me, but you're not really interested in meeting me. And I remember feeling like, okay, so it would hurt. It's like, then are you really not interested? And then I would start to look at each text with a little twinge of sadness because it was like, you're avoiding setting up a date. What's going on? Okay. So fast forward to today. I follow the websites and the email sequences that come out for, I act as if I'm a guy, although my real name is on there. So if they look, they'd be like, "This chick's on our email list." I doubt they care. But I look at, what do guys look for when they want dating advice? What are guys out there? What are guys telling other men to do on dates? So I follow what most of the time is like pickup artist type stuff. And I look at how they write these emails to these guys. And it's almost like you would die. And if you want, you can message me offline. I'll tell you which ones I follow. But they write emails to these guys and you realize how terrified they are to approach women. And the market for these pickup artist type, or the market that the pickup artist teachers are looking for is the guy that's really shy. He never dated a girl in high school, or he doesn't have very much experience with women, and they teach them. They actually charge thousands of dollars for these guys to come in and really learn techniques. Okay. So you know how I feel about techniques. So like, okay, well, if I learn a technique about how to, let's say I teach you a technique about how to network. Well, it works maybe in a business setting because the business interaction is only going to go so far, right? But with dating, you're going to get to know each other on a much more personal level. So a lot of these guys are armed with techniques, scripts, lines, processes, but they don't know how to be a real person on the other side. I actually talked to one of them in person and I said, what do you teach these guys after date? I go, he was like, yeah, we teach them this. And he's like, you don't understand how difficult it is for a man and how much rejection he'll have to take before he finally gets a girl that wants to talk to him. And I said, he was like, so we teach them these skills. And I said, okay, so what do you teach them for date 17? And he's like, well, we don't teach him that. I'm like, okay, so you teach him up to the point where he gets sex, but then after that, you don't teach him anything. No. I go, so you're just teaching him, it's like Night at the Roxbury, you know, can you just pick it up like, hey, what's up? Come here often? And then they don't have anything after that. Like, I just want you to really let this set in. Like a lot of these guys, they don't know what to do. You're waiting for something and they're like, oh, she's waiting for, what does she want? What does she want? They don't know how to do it. They don't know that they're supposed to. It's like, even if they knew, like maybe she expects me to take her to some restaurant. What restaurant does she expect me to go to? Is that going to be stupid? Like they're thinking so logistically. They're overthinking it because they don't realize that you are just interested in getting to know them. And this is where kind of this concept goes both ways because I teach you how to increase your self-worth so that you feel good showing up as just you. You have to know just me is enough on this date. And if you don't know that, it's going to be impossible to connect with you, just like it is for him. So a lot of times you're looking at him and he's like, you think he's cute? He might be, you might have like, let's go through one scenario with this guy. You meet after way too much texting. Now, I'm going to give you his side of it. Theoretically, let's just go to our hypothetically, let's just go through this scenario. On his side, he's in his Spider-Man onesie pajamas with his Xbox 360 in a dark basement, talking to guys on Discord on the headset and looking at his phone, seeing that he's got text messages from you, trying to figure out what he should be because he doesn't really know what girls want him to say because he's nervous. He knows, okay, this is leading somewhere. I should ask her out, but I don't know what I should ask her because in this guy's regular everyday life, he's not very social. He's not like going up and talking to people very often. I see this guy sometimes when I'm walking Charlie and where he's not able to really even talk about what kind of dog. Like, what kind of dog? I don't know. I think something that'll like trail off. And I'm like, wow, okay, good talking to you. You know, it's like some people are just that socially awkward. Okay. So aside from the hypothetical, sorry, I'm getting like too excited, but I want you to understand that sometimes that's the dude you're texting, where he in person cannot actually communicate. And so he can text, but he is not capable of going on a date because that is the scariest thing ever. Actually, last year, I remember texting this guy and he was like so complimentary and he was like, oh man, you're so beautiful and you're this and you're that. And we had these amazing conversations and he was like, well, you're so intelligent. It's so amazing talking to you. And we really had some great talks about different topics. And then finally I asked the question like, well, maybe we should get together. And he was like, I would love to meet you, Melissa, but you cannot dress up because you are so beautiful that, like I couldn't handle that. And right when he said it, I was like, oh, I ended it right there because I thought, okay, I don't know. And I actually said this to him. I go, you're asking me to go to my closet and pick out an outfit that makes you comfortable to be with me. I don't know what that is. I actually said that to him. I'm like, I'm not sure what outfit that is. And then he was like, well, no, I'm sorry. I don't mean it the way. He's like, long story short, the guy hadn't been on a date in like 2 years. And the idea was terrifying. And then he told me he had massive social anxiety. And I think I've told you guys before, I've dated 2 people with massive social anxiety. And I am too much of a caregiver and I cannot stand it when someone is uncomfortable in a situation. And so I cannot like forget about you being uncomfortable. And so it's like, it's paralyzing to me to be with somebody who feels like that. And then I start accommodating it to the point where we're no longer normal. And so I cannot date somebody that has that level of anxiety where, I started asking him like, okay, so you live in New York City. So how do you deal with like public transportation? And then he started talking to me about medication he would take, but it still kind of overwhelms him. And then he would get flushed and have panic attacks. And I was like, so here's this guy, right, who could really communicate beautifully via text. Super funny. It was really tragic that he was so incapacitated by all of these fears and anxieties. But he tried to make me change who I was so that I could accommodate this stuff. And so now he was on the nicer side and he actually admitted and he owned it and he understood why it wasn't going to work for me. But I know that I can't even tell you how many guys I was texting for so long, not being asked out on a date. Not realizing. I look back at so many, I'm like, oh, he was like the other guy I just explained, where the idea of actually going out was completely just, it was like, it would be like if I asked you, hey, I need you to take over my podcast next week. I'm going to send you my microphone and my computer. And can you just do the podcast? And you'd be like, so a lot of you would be like, Melissa, the idea of that is terrifying. Or, hey, when you go and you watch a public speaker and then all of a sudden you realize they're looking for somebody to bring up there. And you're like, oh my God, like you were sitting there super calm, like watching. And all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, they're going to ask her, they're looking for a volunteer. They're going to pick out, what if it's me? They're that freaking scared to go out and meet you because they are afraid to tell you who they are. So this gets back to this book that I've been wanting to share with you. Now, there's so much, this is why I want every one of you to go through the academy, because this gets so deep and it really kind of depends on the kinds of guys that you're working with, or the kind of guys that you're dealing with. And then I can help you understand these concepts and apply them specifically to the men that you're dealing with and the patterns that you're experiencing. So we have a lot of these guys on way different spectrums. One could be complete, like the guy I explained to you, huge social anxiety, almost afraid to be in public, to a guy that, let's go next level from that guy. I'm going to put the book, coming back to the book in a second. Let's go next level with this guy. So the next guy, he isn't that afraid. He's not like, he doesn't have maybe massive social anxiety to the point where he's never going to go out, but he really delays the process. Because do you know what he's doing? He's trying to make sure that there is no possibility you'll reject him before you meet. So a lot of times these guys, they're testing a lot of these things. So, I mean, like, what kind of a girl are you? You kind of the girl, like, you need fancy stuff and like, what kind of a lifestyle do you expect a guy to do, blah, blah, blah. Like if you get kind of antagonistic questions, the translation is, do you expect things that I can't give you? Basically what he's doing is he's creating scenarios where it's like if we were to do it, like, well, do you expect me to look like Kim Kardashian every day? Because, I don't have time to do that. Like, I don't have a stylist. And then the guy's like, no, I don't expect you to look like Kim Kardashian every day. But do you see how ridiculous that question would be? I mean, do you expect me to be like some high fashion model every day and like I can't afford to have my hair blown out every day. Do you see how weird that would be to say that to a guy? Like, I can't be some, I'm not Giselle, okay? That's what he's doing to you though. So do you expect me to be some sugar daddy? Like, I'm not, so, and we get defensive. I used to get defensive with these, like, oh, I see you have a Michael Kors bag or a Kate Spade bag. Like they would look at the brand of stuff that I was carrying. So did you get the new Apple Watch? So it'd be like, all of a sudden my Apple Watch and my Kate Spade bag would become a topic on the date. And I'm like I have all the witty comebacks. That I have the witty comebacks, and I'll be like, so you're into fashion, are you? Like you recognize, like, this brand? Why does he know the brand? He knows the brand because he's been out with a girl before and he saw the bag and then he looked it up and he's like, oh my God, this girl's carrying a $300, $400, $500 bag, whatever. And I can't afford to buy her stuff like that. She's going to expect that for Christmas. She's going to expect that stuff for her birthday. Like, and if she already buys that, then this is how it is in his head. So, and none of that could be true. Like, I do have this Kate Spade bag I've had for like 2 years, and it's actually the little, the stripping is coming off the handle. And like, I would never expect a dude to buy me a Kate Spade bag. Like, I wouldn't care at all. Like, I know you're like me. We aren't looking for the guy that has money, and we do not have that expectation. But he thinks that he's made up in his mind that this is what women in general expect of him. So you get this skeptical, insecure, slow to react guy because he's just testing you out just to make sure that you really like him, that there's not going to be anything crazy expected of him. And so then if you finally can get this guy comfortable enough. So what do we have to do to get him comfortable? We have to give him gumballs. No, I don't know. This bag is an old bag. Like just what I said, like, oh, this bag's old. Like, I don't expect guys to, like, I could say that, but today I wouldn't say that. I would take that as ooh, you're in a way different place than you need to be in order to date anyone. It's not about me. It's about your insecurities are way too high. And that is a wall that I can't get through. Because if I want to connect with you as a person, I'm not going to be able to, because that's the stuff that you've got. It's like he's putting this white noise in front of us. I can't penetrate that field because he's blocking me with things that are, it's like he's created a facade that isn't even there. But I can't sell him on the fact that it's not there. He's got to realize on his own that he's projecting his own insecurity. And so I can sit here and defend it and argue, but it's not going to help, because have you argued this before? And then he's like, yeah, okay, we'll see. And so then you feel like you're on this mission to prove that you're not this gold digger chick that he's kind of made you think that, well, I don't know, we'll see. But girls are just gold diggers and I've had bad experiences. So you've had bad experiences. So now it's my job to prove to you that all women are not like that. And I'm going to be the one that is exactly. So now what does that make us do? It makes us work really hard for him. And now I'm no longer building a relationship. I am now serving him in ways that now I'm feeding him what he needs to constantly feel comfortable that he is enough. Do you understand? It's like he's got to be enough. Like, okay, no. I don't need this and I don't need that. No, honey, you're enough. Here's another gumball to make you, let me soothe you. Let me pat your head. Let me stroke your hair. It's going to be okay. That's really what we're doing when we're arguing. Okay. Because he's showing up not wanting, he's showing up so afraid. Okay. So can you picture how this looks? Like when you're getting weird lag in response, you've got to immediately associate that with, okay, so I talked to this guy. I want you to look at it like he introduced himself, started out normal. Maybe it didn't start out normal. Go back and look at the thread. Yeah, it did start with a, hey, hi, how are you? That's a test. Will she respond to just a very low frequency, hey, so if you do, I got a bite. So you're like the little fish on the worm. And he feels that, okay, maybe. But he's got to try to reel you in. And how does he do it? How does he do it in a way that does not put his self-esteem at risk? I don't think a lot of times they're doing this intentionally, but they don't give you what you want all at once. Because what you want is a conversation and let's plan a date and let's see if there's a connection. No. He can't do that. That's not where he is. That's where you are. But he's like, okay, he's feeling like, I don't have a lot of money. My job's not that great. And I know she's probably out there dating all these fancy guys that are taking her on these amazing dates. And I can't do that. But she did talk to me. So he'll send you like, how was your day? And a lot of times it takes a lot of messages before he's like, okay, maybe I can go meet her now. And then he goes and meets you. And he'll say, I'm really shy at first until you get to know me. I open up when I know people. It's like, okay, well, so does everyone. Most people don't tell you who they are until they get to know you. It's such a weird thing to say. But so also that puts you on the side of, okay, you're shy at first. So I should expect awkwardness. Okay. So he's saying, expect awkwardness in the beginning. Expect me to be kind of a squirrel on the other side. Have you ever had them show up and then they're kind of like, their shoulders kind of roll forward and they're like, so, do you think I look like my picture? Or do you think like, I was wondering, I didn't know, like, I wasn't sure if you were into me. So he's there and now he needs to be reassured that he wants to hear, no, you're better looking than your picture. No, I think you're so cute. He needs to hear that now that he's in person, that he's still okay. Tell me I'm okay. Am I cute? Do you like me? Because he can't sit there and wonder. It's driving him crazy. So the more you can reassure him and soothe him, now he feels like he can reel you in even further. So he's like cranking that fishing pole in. Okay. But he's afraid you're going to wiggle away at any moment. So he doesn't want to show that he likes you, because then if you don't like him, then he's like, oh, I showed her I liked her. And then she's like, oh, I'm really sorry. And he doesn't want to go through that. He's like, whoa, I can't do that. So it takes forever to get him out. Then when he's out, he says these weird things that sadly, I was used to this stuff. This was normal to me. I mean, I was used to this guy, like, okay, we would text because what I was doing, like a lot of us, were texting a lot of different guys, but I would have multiple shy guys that I would be texting. And I'm so good at making people feel comfortable that then they would say, You're so easy to talk to. Yes, I am easy to talk to in any setting because that's just who I am. I love people. I love to communicate. So that's who I am. But in a romantic setting, it's different. And so I have skills that allow me to make him feel comfortable, but I shouldn't have been using them in that way because that's not how it's supposed to go. I shouldn't be working to help him be comfortable getting to know me. Do you hear me? I hope I'm not in a weird place here, but I feel like I've never really covered this. And I want you to have different eyes on as you are in these situations. So then what would happen is if you have like a couple of drinks, right? Then he starts to loosen up. And yes, people kind of tend to be more themselves when they're drunk. However, most of the time we're not drinking in life. And so if it takes me to drink to let myself out, then that's who I am when I'm drunk. But it's like in real life, I'm too afraid. So the real me is afraid. And in order to overcome that, it's just like I was telling my friends last night, I was terrified to do a competition in ballroom dancing. I mean, oh my God, it was just like, you got to put the dress and the makeup. Your whole body is like covered in this makeup and you have more eyeshadow on than you've ever had in your life and lashes and your hair's different and you've got this sparkly dress from head to toe and then you're expected to perform and you're being judged. And it's just like that environment scared me because, when you're in the studio, you're just with your teacher and it's very safe. But now you're not safe. Now you're out there and it's scary. But now if you say, hey, are you afraid to do another competition? Actually, no, I'm not afraid at all. I'm not even afraid at all. I mean, on the day of, I'll be nervous. Don't get me wrong, but I'm not like, oh my God, I can't like that. I've overcome that because I've done it. Right. So a lot of times these guys have not properly put themselves out there. This is how they do it. They don't do anything scary. They don't do anything that's challenging. And so they drag out this process. And we are thinking on our side, oh my gosh, we've been texting and it's been kind of slow, but we've had some really good talks via text and I think he's super sweet and I really like him. And you don't even know him. Like he's barely shown up, but we've gotten used to this. Okay. We've gotten accustomed to this where it shouldn't look like this at all, but we have now lost perspective on what it should be. Because the reason I brought up the dance competition is this guy won't take risks in life. He will not put himself out there to grow, to stretch, to be a guy that can show up more confident every single day. If you want confidence, if you have low self-esteem, you have to do uncomfortable things. It sounds counterintuitive, but you cannot journal your way to confidence. You have to do stuff that's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm doing this, but I'm out here. Here I am. And you got through it and it's exhilarating and it's exciting and it pushes you to the next level. But when people take zero risks and then they go on dating sites, and they are so afraid and they sit and hide. So essentially what I want you to see this as is he is hiding from you and he's trying to come out little by little. And what we are in the habit of doing is we're fluffing his pillows around him. We are making this process really easy. We are allowing him to take as much time as he needs. And we are also allowing him to be skeptical of who we are the entire way through, doubting our every move. Have you felt this before? It's like doubting your every move. Like, I don't know. I just remember dating this one guy and he's like, I did something and he's like, oh, my ex-wife used to do that. So, and I'd be like, well, that's not what I'm doing though. You said she did this, but I'm not actually doing that. Can you see the difference? Yeah. Well, I guess I just have it associated with that. And I remember thinking, okay, but you're not seeing me for who I am. So I know that she used to do this, but it wasn't even connected. It was just like, I felt like I was screaming to be heard, but he couldn't hear me because he's been hurt. So here's the reality. They've been hurt before, most likely. They've decided to shut down emotionally. Maybe they came out of their shell one time, but that one heartbreak just set them back. So now they sit in the dark and they text you. I want you to picture this guy. It's dark. It's in his basement. Maybe he's playing video games, whatever, but he's texting you, but it's really difficult for him to come out of that space. Then when he comes out, he's okay for a while, but he needs some drinks. Then he might actually make out with you and he might let go for a while and go, whoa, this girl was amazing. You'll have a phenomenal time with him, because I believe everybody has seeds of greatness. He should be working his way out of his shell. He needs to see the kind of man he can be, but you cannot make him be that man. So that amazing night, that great makeout, that was an anomaly for him. That's that's not the norm. So we're like, okay, let's go out again. But you don't realize he has to go through that whole process one more time. What am I going to wear? What does she expect? She expects. I know she's expecting. And what he is thinking that you're expecting is what he actually feels like he should be. So he's picturing his ideal self and he knows he's not there and he thinks you're expecting the ideal, and so that you're going to get disappointed. And so I want you to realize that this manifests in one-word texts. This manifests in rude comments. I just can't be with somebody who expects me to be buying them Apple Watches and Kate Spade purses. And you'll be like, you'll get these messages somewhere in that neighborhood and you're like, what is this message? And then you'll respond in the way that feels natural to you. But I'm doing this podcast so that you can stop in these moments and go, ooh, what do we got here? We got a guy that has barely worked up the courage to go on dates, barely worked up the courage to respond to text. He doesn't know how to do what we're asking him to do. And then to make it worse, we have Hollywood portraying this image of what it's supposed to look like, this unattainable goal of romance. Then he might think, oh my gosh, this is a second date. Or maybe you've even gotten to a third date with this guy. He thinks you're expecting like a Lifetime movie. And he doesn't feel like he's equipped to do it. And it doesn't matter if you say, I don't expect that. He doesn't know what else to do. It's really like, Melissa, really? He doesn't know what to do? No. You know why? Because the process of getting to know each other is building friendship. It's communicating as you would friends. Because yes, you have romantic attraction, but a date is conversation and connecting authentically. So it's about talking about whatever. This is not an exact science. That's why no one can quote unquote figure it out, because the answer in reality isn't some magical thing. It's you meet somebody, you have that spark, but you also enjoy talking about certain things, topics, interests, passions. Maybe you really love talking about filmmaking or writing, or you love talking about dance or architecture, or maybe you both secretly watch wrestling on TV and you're like, oh my gosh, or you love us, whatever. It's like you're just exploring. It's an adventure, right? When you really connect with somebody and the conversation starts to flow, when the person really is comfortable in who they are and they have like their nerd qualities, like my love for Star Trek. Like I know that I'll be like, hey, waving my nerd flag, watching Star Trek, and be like, oh my God, I like Star Trek too. Like, oh my God. Yeah. And it's just, that's the conversation that should be happening on a date. Not, so, I was wondering, do you think I look the same in person as my picture? It's like, no, that's not where the amazing connection begins. So we have to really explore, understand, research what does a really good conversation sound like? What does a really good date look like? What does a second date look like? I want you to start asking couples that have really good relationships. So tell me about your first date and your second date, and like, what did you guys do? How did you do it? What did you talk about? How did you know? Like, I want you to ask questions that you might feel like are stupid questions, but I have never met a good couple that won't answer these questions, because they are both comfortable in their own skin. They're both whole people as individuals, and they make a great team, and they appreciate and can almost always articulate that dynamic to you. And once you hear that over and over again, you'll compare it to what you're experiencing over here, and you'll be like, oops, sorry, I just knocked something over. You'll compare it to what you're experiencing, and you'll be like, oh, yeah, I don't have this over here. He's cute. He's trying. And sometimes we see those little gestures of, oh, that's a cute text to send. Okay, it's cute, but it's not enough. It doesn't mean he has to have, it's not about money. It's not about status. It's about him showing up and being available, not hiding, not slinking away, not letting 4 hours go by between texts, because he's staring at his phone and he wants to be the guy that knows what to say. And then we feel sorry for that guy too. I've explained this to girls, and then they're like, oh my God, Melissa, I just feel so bad for him now. Oh, Peanut, as my sister would say. Oh, Peanut, do you feel bad for him? Yes, but that's a job for his mommy. His mommy needs to make him feel better. You cannot become mommy, because as soon as you start feeling sorry for him, you know what happens when you feel sorry for him? And you start to say, you just seem so scared. Why are you so scared of me? Then he's like, oh my God, she can see that I'm scared. And now she's trying to like comfort me because she can see that I'm scared. Now I'm really feeling out here and naked. And you're just trying to help him, but he is not going to see it that way. He is going to think the opposite. So by helping him makes it worse. It's like you might as well throw him naked in the middle of the street, because to reveal that you can see his fear is worse. To try to comfort him, it's worse. He needs to feel like a man. And the problem is he's not doing the work on his own to feel that way. So a lot of times though, I would continue down this road. Like I remember a lot of times it wouldn't turn into a full-on relationship, but sometimes it would turn into, so many of these guys I would talk to for like a month or two. And I would think there would be something, because what throws us off is when there's physical attraction or we feel a chemistry through the phone. We feel it, right? There's some guys you can text, you feel nothing. Other times there's an energy, there's a chemistry, which really makes us hang on, because we're like, I know that this guy's acting weird, but I feel like there's something behind this. And there very well may be. However, we have to understand we're looking for the long term. If you're looking for a husband, this is not an area that you can really, it's like, I want you to look at this and go, if this guy recognized this problem right now and he jumped into therapy and he went like 3 times a week, it's years to work through this kind of insecurity. This is a problem that he's going to have to try to really take head on. He's going to have to read about it. Like, this is something that he has to own. And then through that process, he's still going to struggle in the same areas that I'm seeing him struggle now. Do I want to date a guy? Do I want to go through that when I'm just trying to also just get to know him? This is when I tell you that dating should just be fun. There shouldn't be all of this struggle in the beginning. There's struggle always because someone is hiding. Okay, so when I was developing Gumball Love, I wanted to get to this book this whole time. When I was developing Gumball Love and I went into the library and I asked the kid and I was explaining the concept and I asked him what book, he sent me to this book by John Powell. Why Am I Afraid to Tell You Who I Am? And in the book, I highlighted these. It's so funny to look at where I was highlighting all those years ago. But it says, it is certain that a relationship will only be as good as its communication. If you and I can honestly tell each other who we are, that is what we think, judge, feel, value, love, honor, and esteem, hate, fear, desire, hope for, believe in, and are committed to, then and only then each of us grow. Think about that. Then, so you have to be able to, that's complete openness. I remember reading this going, wait a minute, all of these books that are written for men and for women tell us to kind of withhold, to create a chase, to don't call, wait 3 days, all this stuff. But here, the books that really teach us to develop intimacy say the opposite. So I'm going to read that again. Okay. It is certain that a relationship will only be as good as its communication. If you and I honestly can tell each other who we are, what we think, judge, feel, value, love, honor, esteem, hate, fear, desire, hope for, believe in, and are committed to, then and only then each of us grow. Then and then alone can we walk then and only then can we be what we really are, say what we really think, tell what we really feel, and express what we really love. This is the real meaning of authenticity as a person, that my exterior truly reflects my interior. Whew. It's like, so you have to be dating somebody that sees you and can express, like they have to be able to see you and you have to be able to freely express who you are. I just had a girl text me this morning. I woke up and she said, hey, I have to get this off my chest. This guy that I'm dating rushes me through my stories. She goes, I'm a very artistic, creative person and he's more of like a engineer type. And he's kind of hurrying me through because he's like, get to the point. And I said, no. You need to be free to be heard. You need to feel like you cannot be rushed through your conversation. Because I was like, what is he rushing you through? What's the point of the rush? Rushing it means he wants it to be about him. So it's like, hurry, get to the point. It's because I want this to be about me on the date. And I'm bored of this blah, blah, blah. Okay. Maybe that can be, we all have friends, we all can be that person in certain circumstances, but we cannot be on dates where, when you're really into somebody, you're into every freaking thing they're saying because you're really connecting to them. But when somebody's not connecting to you and they are wanting you to be about them, they want you to hurry through that part because that's not interesting. They're like, enough about you. What do you think about me? I know that's not their phrase, but enough about me. What do you think about me? That's what they're trying to get back to. So I told her the real boring person is him because he's just wanting to talk about himself all the time. Okay. So then he goes on to say, if I communicate with you and you with me on only a subject-object level, we will probably communicate with others and even God on the same level. We will remain isolated subjects. Others and God remain merely objects in our world, but not experiences. Unless we have been opened up by such an encounter, we will have so-called friendships, and we will perhaps retain a so-called religious faith or relationship with God, mostly because these are the things that are somehow expected of us. These relationships with others will be social amenities and nothing more. There will be no personal meaning in them. Now, I believe that, yes, there are sociopaths. Yes, there are narcissists. And this is why I believe Gumball Love was gifted to me. I believe God gave me this whole concept because I just don't feel like I was smart enough to put this all together on my own. And when I read that, I know specific men that operate in that kind of a world. They are incapable of really connecting to people. But if you see them, they're nice. They're funny. They're fun to be around. They're not just, weirdos locked in their basement. Yet they really struggle with friendship because they are the feeling of inadequacy in them is so devastatingly huge that the idea of someone wanting to be around them just for them is out of the question. Can't even consider it. So they're calculated in their experiences because they're always looking at it like, what does this person expect from me? And you're like, I don't expect anything. You're there for the experience. But he is trying to fulfill some societal norm or some expectation. Like he says, these relationships with others will be social amenities and nothing more. There will be no personal meaning in them. Now get this. I was dying when I read this part. He said, the world of people in a subject-object relationship is a world of objects, things to be manipulated to serve as distractions or sources of pleasure. The possessions of such people may be beautiful and expensive or common and cheap, but these people will be lonely. They will come to the end of life without ever having really lived. The dynamic process of personhood will become a static thing like debris floating on stagnant waters. While the process of personhood is stifled, all of life becomes a terrible bore. Get ready for this. I literally, my feet tapped under the table when I read this next part because I knew I was onto something with Gumball Love. Because this book, let me just check not to create suspense, was written in 1969. He says, if the edges of reality for a humanly isolated person are sharp, life can be very painful. There will seem to be a need for those artificially induced but short-lived stimuli called kicks. These kicks are little attempts to run away from life, short trips in effort to escape the inexorable intrusion of reality and the essential loneliness of the person without true friends. Whew. Boom. Kicks. I was like, kicks? Gumballs. The gumball that we're giving them is to smooth out the rough edges of life, to curb the loneliness that they are feeling. Sometimes I think we don't realize these people are in extreme pain. And I have compassion. In fact, I've told you guys many times, I felt God put on my heart, have compassion for the gumball guy. And I remember looking up I was sitting at my desk and I was like, compassion. Pissed me off. I was like, I don't have compassion for this. This guy is so hurtful and I'm in all this pain and he brings heartbreak. But then I started to think about it and I was like, if I have compassion, I have to realize this is a person that's in so much pain, that's so lonely, that is the gumball is this kick. It's this stimulant. It's helping him make, how did he say? The kicks are the little attempts to run away from life, short trips in effort to escape the intrusion of reality. So that hot makeout session that you had with him was an escape, and he was having a really good time with you. And he wishes he knew what it meant to explore that. It's like the idea of building on that and spending time with you and getting to know you is a foreign thing to so many of these guys. They're sitting in isolation, afraid to make any move because they honestly, really do not know what they're doing. And then they get mad because they know they're missing an opportunity. They get mad that they don't have these skills. They get upset with all these other guys that seem to have game. So then they show up to these conferences where, siren, New York City Life. They show up to these conferences because I subscribe to these email lists of the guys that are, they're teaching these dudes to become pickup artists, right? And because they feel like, okay, I must need game. But the game that they teach them, I get all the emails and I'm like, wow, this is the game. Okay, this is what they do. And I can see where it works temporarily because they teach them how to have conversation. They teach them how to, they'll even say, pretend to be interested in them. Pretend to be interested in her, ask her about her family, like really get in there. And so they have it's like Night at the Roxbury. Hey, come here often. Like they have their, I'm like bobbing my head, the Night at the Roxbury. If you don't, look it up. It's hilarious. The movie's hilarious. Anyway, it's like they're all following their own Richard Grieco version and they're trying to figure out how this works. And you guys, we're guilty of it too. Because I've bought all these relationship books. I have stacks of them trying to figure out how it works. Yet I would look at all these married people and be like, they didn't read any of these books. So what's the deal? Yeah, because you don't need to. You just have to figure out how to be yourself and comfortable in your own skin. Because when you meet the person that you're supposed to be with, it's the experience. It's the adventure that you're on because you don't need any of these quote unquote skills. The game, if you're using game, then game is hide and seek. So I'm going to read you a couple other things. He says, I just have this highlighted. He has to come to feel some sort of safety and protection behind the walls of his prison, where he is voluntarily captive. The darkness of his prison shields him from a clear view of himself. Whew. Holy cow. The darkness of his prison shields him from a clear view of himself. Oh, I can't wait to even release this podcast. I'm so excited for you guys to hear this. He is not sure what he would look like in broad daylight. Above all, he is not sure how the world which he sees from behind bars and the people whom he sees moving about in that world would receive him. He is fragmented by almost a desperate need for that world and for those people, at the same time by an almost desperate fear of the risks of rejection he would be taking if he ended his isolation. Wow, I need to reread this whole book. You guys, I know how this is where you met him. A lot of times we meet these guys and we have this beautiful experience. And you know what we do? We write a fairy tale ending without realizing who this guy really is. He shows up in a moment where you gave him enough stimulant, enough drug, enough gumballs, enough dopamine, where he came out of his prison cell and he experienced it. But as you're creating the fairy tale in your head, he's locking himself back up. And it is tragic. Trust me, I have stood at the door of that prison. I have begged him to come out. I have shown him that he has the keys. He can just turn it, that I'm here for him, that I love you. I want to be with you. Like when you've coddled this guy all the way through a year relationship or 2 years and he still won't come out, it makes you're like, why don't you want to be over here with me? It's so much better out here. The world accepts you. It's fine. The water is great. It's so exciting. Why are you in this dark cell? I love you. You're accepted. He can't accept that he's accepted. He can't do it. And that is the tragedy. But I'm going to tell you. The process of you trying to sell him on the life with you, the process of you trying to pull him out destroys you. Do you hear me? It will destroy you because eventually you start to go, maybe he's not coming out because this doesn't look good to him. Maybe there is something wrong with me. Maybe like it's so bad where he is, yet he chooses to be in that dark. He chooses to be there instead of here. Why? And then you start to look down at yourself. You start judging your body. You start judging who you are. You start judging your beautiful heart. You look at the gifts that you have in your hand and you felt like they were so good and you gave him from such a beautiful place and he's still in there like, I'm not coming out. It's devastating. When I met up with my ex 3 years ago, the ex of all exes, we reconnected and it was so fun to see him because will always be a special place in my heart. But when we got to this point of conversation where I don't even really remember what he said, but he kind of started going down the road of maybe we would get back together or what that would look like. And I said, oh, no, we won't be getting back together. And he was like, why? And I said, because I will fall in love with you again. And then you will find me boring, or what I feel like you finding me boring. And then you will destroy me because I will try to not be boring. I will try to do whatever it takes to bring out the man that I love, and I will not succeed. And then I will have to pick myself up off the ground and rebuild myself one more time. And I will not do it right now. And I walked away and I went to my therapist and I was like, man, just one interaction with him. What was that about? Why do I feel so sad? And he said, well, you're grieving the loss. I thought, man, one evening, we just went out for one evening. And it was the evening where I had intentions of, I was really in the thick of writing this concept in a book form, which I still will, but I was actually going to be publishing the book back then. Thank God I didn't, because there's so much more that's going to be in it now. And don't ask me when my book is coming out, because I'm working on developing the system for you to go through the academy, which is essentially what I teach in the academy are all the things that are in this formula and that will be in the book. But back then I felt a sense of guilt because I actually thought more of him was going to be in this book. So I wanted his permission, which I did get. He told me, write your story. He's a much more mature man today or 3 years ago than I hadn't seen him for 8 years. But it was really great to see him. I could see, oh, this is why I was attracted to him. He is a beautiful soul. However, he's still in that cell. He's still locked up. And I know now, and I knew then, that I couldn't sacrifice myself to try to convince him to come out. I have to pray for him and hope that one day he looks down and he sees he has the keys and he lets himself free. And I hope that once he steps out, and I also know that even when he steps out, he's still going to have the desire to go back. And the journey of him being out in the world and stepping into the sunlight, and every day for him, if he were to do that, would be scary at first because it's new. He hasn't done that before. That's where he would be out of his comfort zone. And for guys that are in that situation, when girls say to me, can this guy change? Yeah, if he stays out in the sunlight and he doesn't run back and he realizes why he shouldn't run back and he consistently works on that, then maybe. But I rarely see that, if ever, because that prison cell is where they're comfortable. And so I hope that you can see this from a different perspective, that when you're waiting for those text messages, when you have gone on 1 or 2 amazing dates, and then you're not hearing from him, and you know he's attracted to you, you know you had a good time, It's so confusing when this happens. My mission on this earth is to make sure that you separate his behavior from your worth. Separate his behavior from your worth. Yes, you are beautiful. Yes, when he saw you, he thought you were hot. You are not ugly. You are not fat. You are not all of a sudden undesirable. It doesn't happen that fast. If he was into you then, he's still into you, but there are other, he's locked up, which I never even, I didn't even intend on reading that part of this passage. I was just going to read you one part of that passage. But when I highlighted that, man, when I was reading that back then, I didn't really get it to this depth. But I think as you guys have listened to this podcast, we're all growing together, right? We're all realizing how hard this guy has it. And as much as we kind of want to rescue him, we can't do that. You cannot try to rescue him and be his therapist through this. I used to feel like, man, we know why they're in that cell sometimes. We know their abuse. We know their trauma. And we just want to love them because we see the damage that was caused and you want to hold them. I remember holding him in my arms and just wanting him to feel the love that he didn't get. And I wanted him to be like, this is what it's like to be loved. And I'm going to receive this because I never had it and now I do. And I wanted him to just receive it because I wanted so desperately. So I loved him. I was like, let me give this to you. He can't. And it's really painful to watch somebody you love not take the gift. So you cannot doubt the gift that you have. Okay? I hope this paints a picture for you. You can see, when girls join the academy and you get back to you, it's not about changing you. I teach you how to see yourself as the beautiful woman you already are. I tell my girls, this is going to make me cry. Whew. I have one in mind where I told her she had this revelation. We were just doing a coaching session. And I said to her, sweetie, you were this when we started. I saw you like you're seeing you right now on the first session. She's so giving, so loving, so bubbly and funny, but really smart. And just, she doesn't realize how fun she is, but she's starting to. And it was already there. She just didn't see it. So sometimes I think that we don't see it, sort of like they don't see it. So sometimes we're kind of like this guy. And I think we relate to it a little bit. Just to be honest, like we see the guy who doesn't accept himself. And sometimes we're the woman that doesn't accept ourselves either. So sometimes we're bonding with him in that. That's a whole nother podcast on toxic wiring. But even though I know for me over and over and over again, even though I may not have loved myself like I should have, I definitely was capable of loving him. And because nobody can love themselves in the perfect way, right? And I know that what we're giving is real love. You're not giving love to get attention. You're not at that place. But we're loving guys where there's that, what I'm trying to reveal to you is there's just that slight bit where you can relate to what he's feeling, but it's just a little fraction of what his bigger pain and his bigger issue is. You don't have yourself locked up and isolated. You might feel like, I don't know, you may not be the most confident person, but you're not locked in a cell isolated. You have friends. You're giving, you're putting yourself out there. And so that's where I want you to make that connection. Okay? I want you to really think about when you're texting these guys, when you're on a dating app, The reason I say filter like a freak, filter, 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 filter. As soon as you see these conversations that aren't going anywhere, the guy that lobs you a, hey, I want you to go, that's a guy. Put him in an outfit like whatever, Spider-Man onesie, playing Xbox in his parents' basement. Like whatever uniform you have to give that guy, I want you to go, okay, I'm going to put him in the category, whatever works for you in your head. And is that what I'm dealing with here? Instead of, I wonder why he's not texting me back. That's weird. And then you go back and look at your profile pictures thinking, well, maybe, no. I hope by now you can look at this and go, okay, I get ya. This makes sense. So intermittent text messaging and inconsistency, hot and cold, it all comes back to this. And the guy that takes you on real dates, the guy that shows up, that has real conversation, that can be consistent, that you're really enjoying yourself, you're really able to express, you're free to move about the cabin. That's the one you're like, okay. And it doesn't mean that guy's perfect either, because there's all levels. This guy is not one type. There's many nuances. And that's why right now, when the girls in the academy are like, Melissa, if you do the academy and then you become a monthly member, I give you a free hour of coaching once a month. It's like, my coaches are like, Melissa, that's crazy. But this is why I'm working with, if you join the academy, you're getting like the red carpet royal treatment, because I know that what I've explained, it describes the overall picture. But when we zero in on your specific experience, then I really learn more, and it gives me the ability to relate to so many different people. And so if you're experiencing this, it's one thing to hear it on the podcast. It's another thing to try to get over that guy. Because even though this makes sense, it still doesn't make it, oh, okay, I see that. I can just walk away from him now. I get it. It's not that simple. And it's a process. So I invite you, join the academy. We are starting, I'm starting this coming Monday, and then, which would be today if you're listening to the podcast. So you can still join, because we start at 8:00 Eastern, or you can join the following week. And then we'll be doing an official launch monthly after that, starting in September. So you can join in September. Whenever you're hearing this, if it's November or December, just pop in or shoot me a message and let me know when you're hearing this. And if you want to join the next group of women, I have a whole course that I teach you this in depth. And it's designed to be 4 weeks, but it's a lot of content. So you get this library of content where I imagine you going and picking something off the shelf of what you need right now, and then being able to join us once a week for coaching, where you get into the group dynamic. And then we also have the ability to meet one-on-one. So we can talk specifically to your things, but in the group coaching, you learn a lot. You can ask questions where it is a lot of one-on-one in the group coaching. And once you get to know the girls in there, everybody's really open and raw and real. And there's nobody's perfect. People are kind of like, okay, I answered his text message and I know I shouldn't have, but here's the way the conversation went. Or I'm on this dating site and this is what's happening. Or my ex called me again, and we work through all of those dynamics. This is the real thing. It's not some perfect club where everybody's like, living their best lives and you're going to feel like you're some kind of, person that's way behind. No, it's not like that, because it's a process, and everyone's in the process and everyone's in their own thing, but you'll realize that not only will you be helped, but you'll be able to help somebody else. It's amazing how you'll feel that sense where, the person in you that wants to help the gumball guy, that helper in you, that the lover in you, when you get into this group, you'll find such satisfaction in helping another woman, because she's going to receive your gift. And she'll be like, I see this all the time. Thank you so much, honey. That helped me. And I'll coach one-on-one. She'll be like, yeah, I was talking to another girl in the group and we were chatting. It helped me so much. And it's so great that somebody gets me. And I just can't even tell you that got me through that day, or it just changed my whole week. You know what I mean? It's like having support in this is just, it's so important. So I hope this helped you. I feel really good about this podcast. I re-recorded it 10 times as I just couldn't get in the right flow. But I feel like we really touched on some huge things. And I know that so many girls need to hear this. So please share this podcast, because there are millions of girls staring at their phone, wondering why he's not texting back, why he's ghosting, why he's pulling away. And I really believe this is the answer. All right. So if you haven't left me a review, leave reviews, leave comments. If there's anything you don't like, remember, I love criticism too. So let me know anything you feel, good or bad or whatever in between. Or if you have a specific thing you want to email me, I'm melissa@gumballove.com. Until next time, I'll see you soon. Thank you so much for listening. If you want more information or to schedule a private coaching session, or better yet, to join the next Back to You Academy, go to gumballove.com. If you loved this podcast, I would love for you to share it with your friends. And if you really loved it, a 5-star review is the best compliment you can give. Remember, you are enough, you are right where you should be, and the only thing you have to do is keep going. I'll leave you with my favorite quote by Henry David Thoreau. Go confidently in the direction of your dreams and live the life you have imagined. Until next time, I'll see you soon.